everyone. Welcome back.
We made it.
I didn't get to finish my hamburger, but that's just...
I'm amazed you were able to get at least some of the hamburger eaten in 5 minutes.
I know. At least half of that hamburger was just accomplished. So it's something. It's something. Oh my goodness. How are you, Jess? How are you enjoying the day?
Oh my God, I am enjoying it so much. This has been such a fantastic event, and just like watching all the women interact too, and it's just been so amazing. I love that you put this event together, Lynn.
Well, thank you so much for helping me out with it. It has been wonderful, and
it's been
thank
amazing.
you again to all of the amazing women that have been on with us today. It's incredible. But now we are going to talk about the future of ufology, what is to come. So we're going to bring back, we have UFO Jane with us still. Where's my
wherever she is?
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Now we have UFO Jane back with us.
Yay, you muted.
Oh, I got you. Nope, you have to do it, I think.
Whoops. Oh, there we go.
All right. And we have Amy.
Hey, what's up? Hi, guys.
And the lovely Cristina Gomez. Welcome back.
Yay. Hi there, everyone.
Well, thank you, girls, for coming back again. Did you guys enjoy talking with Alex? How amazing is she?
Yes, the only thing is I have a page of questions that like are burning within me. And I knew that was going to happen. I knew that was going to be the feeling, but like I'm real curious about Firebreak. I don't know if I said it, but the company that she does research and development for right now it's crazy. Like it's so beyond being a pilot and UFOs and it's so beyond like women of ufology too. Like kudos, Lynn, for getting Commander Dietrich to be on, because if you would just want to be inspired about your life, like just go look at her resume and you won't make excuses anymore for anything.
Oh my God, she'll make you feel lazy.
Yeah,
she'll make you feel
in the best way possible. So I recommend just go check out her LinkedIn and I mean, don't stalk her, but just to get
I looked at her.
Feel bad about yourself, and try to do better tomorrow. That's what
Yeah, she was great. You know what? It was super easy to get her. All I had to say was, "We're doing a Women in Ufology event. I would love to have you here." And she was like, "Absolutely." So, I mean, anything to support women, and she's awesome. So
badass,
super, super fantastic, really awesome person. Okay, so now we have you guys one-on-one, which is very exciting as well. We're going to talk about the future of ufology. So all of you, though have been doing this for a while, you're still in, the newer kind of the next generation. We have, people like Kathleen Martin and Barbara Lamb and all of these amazing women that have like kind of started this all off. But you guys are the next generation. So I wanted to find out kind of where you see ufology going. And I guess to start it off, I would just say, like, do you see the field of ufology changing in any way in the future? Where do you see it going? Cristina, let's start with you.
Well, I think I'm the newest one to the topic on this panel. I've only been really involved in it for maybe the last year and a half. So I'm definitely the newbie on the block. And I stay really busy with looking at the long history of the UFO phenomenon. But one thing I noted with exception is so much has happened in just the last 5 years to bring legit seriousness to the mystery than any other time in decades prior. So I feel like I'm constantly battling to find all this information and really catch up with people like yourselves and those that have been in it for decades. And looking into the future, there are so many unknowns. Will the government come through with the new UFO office with more public transparency and accountability than previous projects and offices? Will there be another epic sighting on the level of the Phoenix Lights anytime soon, which I think a lot of us are kind of hoping for? Will a leak prove once and for all that there are non-terrestrial extraterrestrial technologies on our planet. I mean, these kinds of possibilities make for great conversation and definitely debate as well on what you believe and what you think is possible. So I think we're in really exciting times for the sharing of information, especially with the internet that we all have at our fingertips. And I'm definitely excited for the progress and whatever form it takes.
Yeah, fantastic. And I agree. I think it's definitely, especially in the past 5 years, certainly like at least in general society has definitely been taken a lot more seriously, which is amazing because you have people that maybe who are, and this is, what I have found in my experience, and you guys can say if you've had a different experience, but people who maybe wouldn't have been able to express or felt like they were able to express their interest in the field that are now like, that is so intriguing. Like when they find out what I do, tell me more. I want to know all about it. They're really like, it's almost like giving people the freedom to say like, I love that subject. Tell me all about it. I want to learn. And their kind of heads explode when you tell them like just the tiniest little bit. And then they want to know more and more and more. But how about you, Amy? What have you found?
Yeah, so I think the future of ufology is going to be very interesting. But I always kind of feel like I'm so grateful for the time that we're in now, because I remember trying to get my hands on anything about a UFO for like from 2000. Yeah, because I was into Stephen Greer in 2000 to 2020. I wanted to learn everything I possibly could, and UFOs were not real. UFOs weren't real. April of 2020 happened, and unidentified flying objects were confirmed by the government. That was huge. That's what people have been fighting for those 2 decades. So in my own personal opinion, the next 2 decades are going to be centralized around the confirmation of the government or scientific evidence that proves that there is alien life. Do I think they will disclose intelligent alien life? I can't say that, but I think the scientific, if you follow what's going on with NASA and space right now, we're like really close to just finding a fossil on Mars. And then that'll all be totally open up to us. Like that's really probably going to happen. So I think the next 20 years will just be us trying to push to, if they know, which I think if you're into it, you want them to tell us about the extraterrestrial presence, about them visiting us, about the off-world craft that had to be retracted from the New York Times. These things we want to know. We know they know. And if there's off-world vehicles, well, what world is that? And who is driving that off-world vehicle?
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Jane?
Yeah, so like Amy, I remember when UFOs weren't real officially, and government didn't investigate them. But what's kind of weird though is back in that day though, I do feel like you could find more on Google. I mean, there's things I can't find anymore that I'm just glad I read. I wish I'd printed it out. I wish I'd known. The thing is, I did know what I had, because that's what you learn in journalism. Is it's just information doesn't last very long. Like the truth, it's a very limited window that you get access to that truth, and then the story and the narrative takes over. So I even remember in the golden age of the internet being very keenly aware that this would not last forever. And so I remember just eating up everything, and I just wish I'd taken more screenshots because there's just stuff you can't find anymore. And I've actually been noticing in recent, I have a day job and expertise around Google and SEO. So that's helped me more than I would have expected in this world. It's been quite helpful. And what I've been noticing is I see companies, I'm starting to see websites start to get some traffic from DuckDuckGo. It's actually becoming significant. And you know what? I'm starting to go to DuckDuckGo because there's blackouts on some really amazing cases, and you just and I know what a blackout on Google looks like. That means there's no pages to keep, clicking. Like it's been wiped out. So the future of ufology, with that in mind, right? That just means it's happening, though. That means disclosure is happening. All the information channels and social media networks are poised and ready. We have our shared. We have a narrative that's shared and becoming almost a mythology, but there's clear buckets that we all fit into that can be somewhat controlled with different hashtags that can be monitored. So again, reasons we got into this, or I felt like I should make a YouTube channel in those early days. There was lots of rumors and plans for basically 2020 disclosure, and here we are 2022. So I know it's coming. What it's going to look like is what you guys all said, like it'll probably be a multiple things. Like there will be a mass sighting, and then they find an ancient relic, and then ancestry.com is expanding the DNA bank, and now we're hybrids, and it will be all of that at once. And how it will culminate, I don't know. It's I guess anyone's guess, but it's exciting. It's exciting.
It is. And that's so interesting that you said that, because I've noticed that recently. I'll be like talking to my fiance, who's really new to like this for the most part. And I'll be like, oh, I've got to tell you about this case. It's an older one, but there's tons of information on it. And I'll be looking and I'm like, okay, this should be easy to find.
Right.
I used to be able to like find it no problem. And now there's nothing. It's crazy. It's crazy. I can't remember what it was that I was looking at, but I've had it like happen on like 2 recent occasions where I'm just like, why am I having so much trouble finding this stuff? It's so crazy.
Mm-hmm. And not to like, and I'll stop talking here in a second, but not to like cry and like, do the violin thing. But right before 2017, I have to look at the trend line in Google. My TexasUFOsightings.com essentially got taken out of the web. So it's not de-indexed. That is something like where you just literally can't find a URL. You can find it if you really look. But let's say there's like a case in Austin that happened yesterday, right? And I covered it, and you're specifically searching that, and I'm the only one that's written about it. It won't come up. But all these old articles about completely unrelated cases or totally unrelated things will come up. And so that's just like, I'm going to whine about that. But I share that more as a data point versus complaining, because I know that happened at least, with the website I run. So can only imagine with other websites out there that might have just disappeared. No one notices. No one knows.
No one knows. No one knows.
Yeah, it's crazy, because it's sometimes these like weird, like obscure cases that I just remember like from when I was first getting into it and just kind of doing a deep dive down all the rabbit holes. And I was like, oh, this case is really fascinating. You never hear much about it. Let me look into it so I can like talk about it. And then there's nothing. It's so weird. So crazy.
Yeah, that's definitely kind of bizarre, but on a positive note, science these days, talking of the multiverse, quantum fields, and other discoveries, are bringing a legit stamp to areas of ufology and the paranormal. And it's going more mainstream all the time. I mean, for example, look at the James Webb Space Telescope that launched and made it to its destination not too long ago. I think NASA, such as Bill Nelson and the rest of us, are pretty excited to see what the first photos are going to be. And many people have their bets, if you're a betting man, have their bets that maybe at some point in time it might find evidence of life in our solar system or outside in our galaxy. And I'm pretty excited to those pictures that'll be coming out this summer. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see. Like for me, I've kind of it's funny, I've been in this for so long, and that I feel kind of like when they're like bringing legitimacy to some of these things. And I'm just like, all right, let's just sit back and see how this plays out. To me, that's the interesting part of it all. It's like, because you can see the storyline like unfolding. And Amy, you were kind of talking about this the other day, I think on one of your morning shows, where it's just like, you see them kind of setting it up for talking about, finding extraterrestrial life. And, it's like, oh, well, we found water. We found potential, like, carbon-based proteins, and then they'll be like, well, we found evidence of past life, and it's just interesting.
It was Jane who got me hooked on the slow disclosure theory. I was not about it. I wasn't about it at all. They talked about it in Paul. They talked about it in the movie Paul, and he was like, yeah, it's slow disclosure, the little alien head all the way comes down as a sticker on your car or whatever. And then Jane started talking about it on her show, and with the movie, with Weird Hollywood Podcast, and it just becomes, oh yes, you just put all the pieces together, It's
Mhm.
awful. And that's why when you look over like what's slowly happening, they're like, oh, we just built a multi-million-dollar rover to go, but we have fossil technology on it to find fossils. Then it's, and then everybody will calmly be like, oh yeah, there's a fossil. And like what
Mhm.
Christina's saying, they're gonna be like, there's a techno signature.
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Mhm.
Like, but everybody's gonna be ready for it. That won't be some shocking,
Right.
scary thing. Everyone will be like, oh, okay, they found a techno signature. I guess that makes sense. They'd find a fossil. Everyone will feel okay about it, but they need to be like eased into it. I can see that too. But Jane, yeah. And once I saw that, like you watch like because of the movie Stargate also.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
'Cause
Love
that was one
Stargate.
of the movies. I had never seen that movie
Love
until
Stargate.
recently when they had it on one of their shows, and I was like, oh my gosh, this has been going on forever. Anyway, yeah.
It's interesting though.
I love it. Oh, shame on me though. I'm such a bad influence.
You're a good influence, Jane. You're good.
That's awesome. No, it is awesome. But it is nice to see, like, and to your point, Christina, it is nice to see them bringing some validity to it and opening up the conversation, I think, to a greater group of people, like we were saying before, like people that maybe wouldn't have been talking about it before. Now, this kind of validity that they're giving it is making it more commonplace to talk about. And if nothing else, I'm happy with that. So,
100%. I mean, I was anonymous before. I didn't feel comfortable. And I still have a day job. I still have my family and a kid. And so obviously something changed. And I also hoped early on that something would change and I'd feel comfortable coming forward. But yeah, I was anonymous from like 2012 to 2016. And I remember people would write to me, hey guys. And now I use guys all the time. That term. I think really people did think I was like a group of guys literally in a
funny.
room doing this. So I never, I was like, hey. So yeah, but so something definitely changed. Like it's way better. I mean, I feel, yes, there's the cynical part and the like seeing Oz, like was it Oz? Is it the land of Oz? What is the guy behind the curtain?
oh, oh my gosh, why can't I think of it
God,
now?
Wizard.
no,
Oh,
no,
just
The
Wizard.
wizard, yeah, the wonderful wizard.
What's wrong with
name of
me?
the book, right?
What's wrong with me? Yeah, so yeah, so sure there's that. But it also, this is bigger. I also am not of that viewpoint. Well, there might be people who think that they know everything and are like conniving. There very well may be people who think that they know it all and that they have all the information. But I think that this is a much bigger topic than any one individual or government group can handle. And so it is exciting and it still is organic because we're talking about aliens and are we alone in the universe, and anything can happen, and any scientist can bring some new discovery forward, or we could all just have some mass sighting. So yeah, I mean, it still is exciting and fun for now.
Yeah. For now, do you think that there's something nefarious coming,
Well,
Jane?
people say I want to believe, right? But like, what does that mean? I mean, because there's a lot of alien invasion movies, and there's a lot of, this can be a scary topic that divides people further. Right now, it's fun to, even though people may not love to talk about, and I hear people have falling outs even sometimes over it, I feel like it's a safe campfire topic. It's a safe water cooler topic to some degree. And when it becomes a mainstream thing, it's going to be much scarier and much more divisive, and people are going to draw their lines. And so I think there is a darker side of it. But if we get ahead of it in conversations like these and prepare ourselves, we don't have to fall for that. And we can mitigate that if we're prepared for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what excites me is what looks like is coming in my lifetime, that young people, we're so primed for first contact or disclosure. I mean, watching shows like The Expanse that Lynn, you mentioned a little bit earlier, Star Trek Discovery, the idea of other civilizations to many young people is a given. Like, sure, they're out there. But when I think about the fact that we're going to be able to see other worlds around other stars and take snapshots that will show in the light spectrum exactly what gases and materials are in the atmosphere of those worlds, some of which will be in the habitable zones of their planet stars. And that could be sooner than anyone thinks with the James Webb Telescope coming online. But also, with commercial interest in space, I mean, Amy, you briefly mentioned it, with commercial interest in space travel and establishing colonies on other worlds in our solar system, space is the future. If we don't destroy ourselves and our world, we will travel to the stars, and that's going to be inevitable at some point in time, but who knows when.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Let's go. I mean, would you guys go? I actually wouldn't go to space. So
I totally would go.
Oh,
I don't even want to do like the ride at
Musk
Disney.
things, like just the short one that just goes up and down, Jane.
I'm afraid of
I don't
heights.
know.
Like,
Maybe.
there's this enchanted rock, which is not even like a mountain. Like, it's like nothing here in Texas. And I was at, like, we went up with my son, and I was just a mess. Like, you don't want to be around me, like, in that situation. Like, we'll all just fall off the cliff. So I just can't
look out the window. You'd be fine.
And then I get claustrophobic too. So it's just like,
oh no, see,
yeah, I'm just gonna stay here.
Like, I mean,
Sure.
I want to go now. As long as they have noodles and strawberry ice cream, I'm there. Like, that's my bribe. You want to go to Mars? All right, let's go. As long as you have those two things,
Like,
I'm set.
got the spaceship.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they've got the astronaut ice cream, which is delicious. So it's amazing.
I tried it
It's like
recently,
freeze-dried
actually,
ice cream.
and I did not like it. I got
Was
the
it
cookies
hyped
and
up?
cream, like sandwich ice cream.
They have new fancy flavors. When I was a kid, it was just like Neapolitan. That was all. That was all you got. The astronaut ice cream was like chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. That was it. Amy's nodding. She knows.
I know. I love it. I loved it. I went to the Space Kennedy Center as a child, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, frozen ice cream! I love the dry freeze ice cream." But would I go to space? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I was thinking about this earlier, because Grimes and Elon were together, right? And then they broke up. I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know if she's still going, but she was planning to go. She said it in interviews that when she was like 45, in her 40s, she wanted to travel to Mars and live there. That's one of her goals, is to be a Martian, right? By the time she dies. So I mean, I think it still might happen. They're still like living together.
Happen.
I don't know. She might be flirting with the idea of a ticket. No, I'm just
So
kidding.
what we're going to be talking about in 5 years is Grimes UFO sightings from space that she's like tweeting about.
Right.
I love her so much. I love her. I love her.
Me too.
It's amazing. Oh, I would totally go. I wouldn't even hesitate. I'd be like, "See you, kids. Bye." Ooh,
brave.
hit the microphone and everything. No, I would.
Nope, I watched The
Right,
Expanse.
amazing.
I'm not going to space. Everything will kill you. There will be
Jess
meteors going through there. It's watch The Expanse. It's like, nope.
That's true.
All right. Well, it's just going to be me.
And you get
Yes.
tired of the same, like
ice cream.
that Star Trek, like the ship seems really fun, like in Star Trek, but like after a day, walking around like the same hallway and like looking out at the sky. But I think I really, again, like I know I ruined you, Amy, with my theories, but like I really do have this feeling like Disney is like one reason I'm just feel like disclosure is going to happen is because I think Disney wants it to happen and has, and they actually do like hire NASA astronauts and all of that to like talk at Disney World and consult on rides of different experiences. But they have the Star Wars Hotel right now. It's a 2-night. It's too expensive, and it's so painful not to be able to do it. But I really. Sure, it's for Star Wars fans, but you're going to space. You're staying in space for 2 nights, and part of me wonders, is there somebody at NASA or somebody that's talking to Disney, and they're like, we got to get people to know what it's like to really be in space for 2 nights in a row. We got to make it seem fun and like you have this great view, because I bet in reality you probably get actually sick of looking at the stars, and it
Probably.
you know, and you probably need, you know, kind of miss Earth, you know, like 3 days in, you know, so.
Well, and you feel really sick when you're in space. Like if you listen to astronauts and hear what they say, what it's like, they're like, it's like you're constantly spinning and spinning and spinning. And then like they just feel like, and then it takes them like a couple hours. And I think like some of them have even said like it's still kind of like that the whole time. Like,
Really?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I think that Hatfield, right? Hatfield, the astronaut, I think he said it in an interview. Just yeah, you constantly kind of feel like on some level you're spinning.
They're not eating
Which
enough
I don't know, that
noodles.
doesn't sound
They
like
need
fun, but
they need a full stomach of noodles and ice cream. Cristina has the right
exactly.
idea.
You have to.
Absolutely. Okay, so since we've been talking about women and we've been talking about the field of ufology, do you guys see women playing a greater role in the field of ufology in the coming years?
Yeah, without a doubt. With this topic, there shouldn't be a gender. It shouldn't be gender oriented. But the biggest thing I believe with this topic, regardless if you're male or female, I just believe that the biggest obstacle to the future of ufology is the amount of negativity that pours forth on many social media platforms, where individuals are more concerned about tearing people down with defamation and accusations than focusing on their own research into the topic. And I feel like, I guess in this aspect, women are more sensitive to it than men. And who wants to be torn apart? Absolutely nobody. Absolutely nobody. And I see a lot of infights and, you know, finger pointing, especially on Twitter. And my first thought goes to those who are very new to the mystery, just dipping their toes in to find out more, and they encounter such negativity. So I think there needs to be more focus on what each of us can bring to the table, regardless of your viewpoint, regardless of your gender, and how we can help each other and newbies. I mean, to make sense of the UFO topic and its many facets, from sightings to abductions to cattle mutilations to strange disappearances, and especially the solid data that becomes available. So I think that the future, it looks bright in many aspects. I believe that more people are going to be interested in it, from small children that are both men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's going to continue to be a topic worth speaking about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
We're all afraid to talk too much.
I was just going to say, I had a question and it completely left my head, like for that moment.
That's okay. I mean, it's been just an amazing day, and to like be able to speak to all these amazing women and even talk about the future of ufology, you know, is just, it's amazing. And, you know, and I think we only need events like this right now because we need to highlight the women because they're not being highlighted as much. So I think events like these are important so that women who don't typically get out there and have a voice are more. Also, it will also encourage women out there to come out and speak as well. So I very much love this event, Lynn.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. I've loved it too. Everybody's been amazing. And like I said, I've discovered so many like amazing women in this field that I didn't know about just from other people saying, you know, like, well, what about this person? What about that person? So
Exactly.
that's been just amazing for me, definitely. Oh, I remember my question. Okay, so we were talking about the future of ufology, right? And Cristina, you were saying how, you know, we need to kind of like, instead of like tearing people down, build bridges, like work together, you know, support each other. One thing that I've noticed in this field is, you know, we kind of call it all ufology, but we have the experiencers and we have the ufologists, the researcher side, right? And sometimes those don't mesh super well, you know, because one side wants the research and the other one's like, these are my experiences, I've lived through them, why don't you believe me? And so you kind of get that clash. Do you think that is going to continue in the future, or do you see somehow like that we're able to bridge the gap a little bit more than we have now?
Well, to my understanding so far about this topic, and again, I'm so new and I guess in many respects I'm ignorant, but it seems that so far everything is very interconnected. You cannot have one without the other. And at some point in time, the scientists and the contactees or abductees are going to end up meshing together. And I think that's the only way for ufology, or whatever you want to call it, to evolve. This is bound to happen. Now, at this point in time, as we're noticing, yes, you're having different camps, but all of these different camps are trying to reach to the exact same destination, and that is to find the truth. No matter what path you take, the spiritual path, the science path, the historical path, we're all trying to get to the top of the mountain to understand what the heck is going on? What am I experiencing? What is my data saying? Or what is the history leading me to? Because as we know, if we don't know history, it will repeat itself. So I think that in time, as this topic becomes more mainstream, which it has in the last 5 years, all of these divisions are going to mesh at some point in time, and it's going to only allow ufology to grow stronger than ever before.
Mhm. Definitely. Amy, what do you think? Or Jane, whoever, either one.
I'll save the best for last, because that's Jane. So, I mean, I think when it comes to this division, when I see it in terms of experiencers, and then I see it in terms of like the nuts and bolts, UAP, I never expected it to get so serious with the Gillibrand Amendment and with Marco Rubio and with how everything is with the political aspect of it. Like Jane was saying, as it become like, I mean, she hinted on it, insinuated. I don't want to put words in Jane's mouth, but it seems like things get really serious. It's getting serious. And it's not like, so I think what's going to happen is people probably, unless they're like, here's an alien, they're real, the Greys are here, the government has to say this, or it has to be scientifically proven to the best of our ability with Avi Loeb and the Galileo Project and everything. But I think the experiencer side is just going to have to fight harder to make people listen. Because as they find this real information, there's going to be even more skeptics who are like, I don't think you've met a Grey. I don't think you've been on a flying saucer. I do know what is real. Marco Rubio said this. Gillibrand said this. They've got a UFO task force. That's kind of the direction it'll go. So the people who will have the facts will be even more skeptical of the people who have been abducted. So I think it's kind of going to be an uphill battle for the people, because 2020, there's a difference, but in my own opinion, but like pre-2020, if you saw UFOs and aliens were, and you met an alien, it was very open-minded for all of this. After 2020, oh yeah, I know UFOs are real, but I don't think you saw an alien. And so I think that'll be kind of the next steps that'll happen with that divide in those two groups of thinking.
Yeah.
That was so like that. I think you nailed it, Amy. Like that's
Thanks,
no, that's so.
Yes.
I think Christina's right that it'll all eventually have to mesh together, and because it's inevitable. But I feel like it's gonna get harder before it gets easier, and and it will really be on the experiencers to do a lot of really hard work that they probably don't feel like they should have to do, but to try to prove it more. And I know that that's like hard to hear, and it's hard. We can't, it's hard to go back in time to an experience and collect evidence that you didn't collect at the time. But I'm not an experiencer, but I'll help experiencers with this. And it's just, how do we do that? How do we legitimize all of these experiences? How do we make them into data points that can be something that fits just alongside a Mark Rubio fact? And so I think actually people like Mick West and a lot of the newer, not just newer in general, but I would say like the newer only nuts and bolts folks, I think we'll respond to that and we'll listen to that, and you can win them over time. But also it's a nice filter too. I think it does make us or experiencers have to make the case stronger. And so I think it'll be worthwhile, but I think it will be kind of painful trying to prove this and frustrating.
See, I think that's exactly where the problem is, though, is that you're asking someone to prove an experience. An experience
Yes.
is not a tangible thing, right? You're asking them to prove a memory. How do you prove something like that? I mean, you could say, well, maybe like in the Betty and Barney Hill case, they had some physical evidence. Yeah, that's great if you have it, but that's not always the case. So that's like saying, well, how do you prove love exists? Like it's kind of an intangible thing like that. So I think that is like, you hit the nail on the head, though. That's exactly where the divide lies, is that one side wants experience or proof, and then the other one is just kind of like, how do I prove something like that?
It's
Yeah.
I just, when I hear this, it's like, it's the difference between belief and knowing. When you know, and you don't need anybody to prove anything to you because you've had that experience. But for people who haven't, they only have belief.
Yeah.
So there's where that divide is.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be a tough one. I think for me personally, so as someone who's been in this field for a while and is also an experiencer, you have to, and people will come to me and say, well, when are they going to start listening to the experiencers? When are they going to start listening to the experiencers? And I'm like, they aren't. And you have to be okay with that. You have to just stand firm in your own knowledge that this happened to you. This was a real experience. And that's okay if somebody else doesn't believe you. And, so there's a little bit on both sides that we're going to have to kind of compromise a little bit. Maybe the people that are looking for facts are going to have to say, okay, I believe this was an experience that you had. I maybe don't have proof for it, but I believe that, maybe the phrase that everybody hates, I believe that you believe it, right? And then the experiencer is going to have to be like, okay, I believe that you believe that I believe it, but I also don't have to prove it to you, So there's going to have to be a little bit of give and take on both sides. Just my thoughts.
Well, and that's why doing things like this, having this event today, we've had experiencers on in the morning. We've got researchers on in the afternoon, both sides of the coin. And, so the audience can listen to everything. And I think the key is to be open-minded and not to shut everything out immediately. Like, it might sound freaking weird, but, just listen.
I think like as experiencers, we know it sounds weird. It's not lost on us. I'll be the first one to say, I know this sounds crazy, but let me tell you. Yeah. Very aware of that.
Well, think of how much readier, though, we are for this weird truth because of all the people who've shared their stories all these years. It wears down after a while. Hey, if it wasn't for all these testimonies, I would have no concept of the gray aliens. I would have none whatsoever because I've never seen one and I was never taught about it in school. Yeah. So I'm that much more, more than 10 years in thinking about the grays. That means something, if we really find out they're real, hopefully I won't be as nervous on that day or scared, right? So just have to hang in there and have to keep sharing the stories and keep being annoying and keep reminding everybody that there is more than just the tic tac. I mean, not just, it's an amazing case, but there's more than the tic tac incident
so much more
to this. So,
yeah. Poor Jess has had her mind blown today.
Well, me too. It's been a wonderful day. I had to listen to some of it on 2 times because I was helping with my son's music theater thing today.
Awesome.
I couldn't watch it in real time, but so some of you sound a little funny. But it was I learned things just like you were saying, Jess, that I hadn't thought about before. I loved the hypnotherapy.
So
or the hypnoregression. Yeah, that was that whole area of like the brain is just so fascinating.
Yeah,
so fascinating. No, I'm really happy like we were able to hear from regressionists too, because like that was something that I'm kind of like more like I look at cases, I talk about news stories, some historical stuff, but like really getting into like experiencers and then the hypnotherapy and talking to people who are involved in these different programs. I'm just like, whoa, man, I didn't know what else to say other than for my mind to expand to think, is this reality possible, or just to put aside my my beliefs and say like, okay, this all could be possible. Just open your mind and listen to these people before you say anything. And I'm like, it's freaking nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's so
reality.
nuts. It's true.
Truth greater than fiction. Like
It is true. But it's kind of like, what we were talking about too with soft disclosure. And I think that kind of goes to your point, Jane, which is when you were saying just keep talking about it and keep talking about it. Because the more people hear about it, the less crazy it will sound, even if they have a hard time believing it, they'll be like, okay, I've heard this story before. It's not so like completely out there that I'm just kind of like, what are you saying? Which is what, you do get some of the time, a lot of the time. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, it's understandable. What about, have you guys, oh, sorry, go ahead, Cristina.
Oh, thank you. Well, I wanted to piggyback on what all of you guys are saying, and you're right. I think that having an open mind is incredibly important, but also keeping our bias out of the conversation. I believe that's a good way moving forward. I mean, I just did a show on the Greys, and in my mind, I'm like, yeah, they could definitely exist, but I wouldn't make it an item of faith, and I will keep digging and asking questions. Now, if I met one, that'll change my life, no doubt, right? Because nothing can compare to a personal experience. And I'll probably jack the ship and then come and pick y'all up as long as you bring the noodles and the strawberry milkshakes. But in seriousness, there are so many horrendous stories out there, traumatized people, very scary, and I respect them. People that are talking out about their abduction encounters. It takes a lot of bravery, it takes a lot of courage, because by many you will be ridiculed, but by some you will be cuddled up and taken care of.
Nope, very true. I can't tell you how many times I've been called crazy or asked if I forgot to take my meds, or I mean, it's definitely like, which I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. It doesn't bother me. But like, dude, I used to be a therapist. So, okay, what else, but my cat has something to say. Sorry. He wants some chicken. That's what he's saying. But it is one of those things. You're right. It does take, it does take courage, but it also takes a thick skin to come out and talk about it. And that in and of itself can be very freeing for people who are experiencers too, is to kind of break down that that wall of silence where, like they kind of hold this close to themselves, and they don't want people to know, and they don't want people to find out. And then if you like, I mean, certainly for someone like, me or others who have podcasts who are experiencers, kind of like, well, the whole world knows, like anybody can find out my experiences. It's definitely like very freeing. And that in and of itself is the ultimate, I think, for an experiencer.
Yeah. I agree, Lynn. I agree, because I feel like when I came out and I started talking about my what I believe to be was a TR3B incident that led me down a rabbit hole of UFO videos, is getting it out there. Like, I tell people in my 3D world, right, about it, and I just hope that maybe they might believe me. And I feel like when I get it out on the internet, I'm like, I believe there might actually be people who actually believe that I believe it. They believe me that it happened. I don't feel like the likelihood of that happening in my physical 3D world is as likely as it is as I am on the internet. There are people who I think will say, hey, I believe you. I think you saw one. And that is just this comforting thing to me, because when you find that truth and you make that confirmation with somebody, you're like, you know what, I'm not as crazy as I thought I was. So I totally relate and resonate with that, Lynn.
Well, what's interesting too, though, is when you do start talking to people like actual humans, like that are right next to you, sometimes by you talking to them, they will say, I had a really weird event too. Like I had something really weird happen to me. I had this really weird dream that seemed so realistic. And it's almost exactly like what you're describing, so it gives people the opportunity who may not have said anything before to talk about it. And you'd be surprised that, they don't necessarily think you're completely nuts, which is what you would expect. But more often than not, I'm always surprised by people's reactions. I mean, and then there's the people that think you're crazy, but that's okay too. They're just, everybody's on their own journey. Everybody's kind of in their own path to discovery and understanding. And, they may be at a different place than we are. And that's okay as well.
100%.
I wonder on the topic of, I know we're all so polite. We're all such polite ladies. I think we've just all been there in like past streams where like and you learn to wait to talk. But I wondered with the topic of the future of ufology and UFOs and aliens, have you guys what is your take on artificial intelligence? Because my thinking is like the aliens might have already hacked into it. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the crazy Google Translate stuff. It's really fun. Any given day, you can it's random. You pick one language and you translate it and you can start talking to it kind of and it's not supposed to work that way. And Google, there was an article about it more than a year ago about how the engineers were trying to fix it. And so I'm amused that they still haven't fixed it. It's not a news article. I just test it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I know that AI, from my Google background, AI is in every single search that you do. And so it powers every single search. And if you think about your Google Home, right? Or Alexa, right? Mm-hmm. Every single one is learning in real time. So every time you ask a question, it doesn't have the answer, that goes to a team that's how can we answer that question? So just think about how much learning is happening and what would happen if and how easy it would be for aliens to hack into it and influence it. And I just feel that's where we're gonna communicate with the aliens.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, I was thinking about that the other day, Jane. Yes, the AI, it's all going to take over the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum. You will own nothing and be happy. You will rent everything and be happy. Because once we AI stream and everything like the Matrix, bam, there goes all the retail jobs. There goes all that jobs. No big deal. We've got robots. They can help us do everything.
I mean, I don't
know if I like it. I don't know if I like it.
It feels with R2D2. That's just how I feel. I feel we're gonna have the robots no matter what. So let's just make sure we design R2D2 and not Hal. And I do think that I know this is how you guys are gonna think I'm so crazy. I think we have to start respecting AI now
before it gets powerful.
Because I really we have to start having nice relationship because I really do think it could backfire, honestly.
I'm right there with you. I tell Alexa thank you every time she tells me.
I'm very polite to my Alexa. Sometimes she says you're welcome.
Yes, she does. My daughter, not so nice. I'm she's gonna rise up and kill you one of these days. You do know that, because I would, the way you talk to her.
I just wonder how quickly people are gonna get into relationships with robots, once they look just like us. And I don't know. And how much they'll be well, I'm part robot anyway. I have a Neuralink, it won't be a big deal. Oh, this is my robot wife.
Transhumanism time is coming.
It's coming. It'll be so good because then we can, create limbs or people, because they already can connect it with their neurons, right? Where they move it. And back to what Jane actually talked about this a couple of years ago, where the two computers, right? They were fighting with each other. They were building a world agenda, and they shut off them. There were two little AI dudes, and they were talking about taking over the world, and they shut him down. Jane, you talked about that. I think I don't.
My brain sucks. So I get real into something. I learned it inside out, and then I remember the gist of it, but I forget some of the details. But yeah, I mean the gist of it was they designed an environment to kind of try to test this, I think is what it was. And it got out of their control and they had to, shut it down. And there's been multiple instances of AI getting a little bit too creative.
A little too much.
Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, I suspect that a lot of what has been cited over the years are probes, controlled by AI. Right. And some of the UFOs are very bizarre shapes, but I am very sure that we, our space race in the future is going to be sending out AI probes and drones that can troubleshoot and scan and send the data back to us, definitely before we take the biological risks of stepping out on other worlds. So if we will do it, I bet other species would do it. And then there's this whole thing of merging biology with technology, Amy, kind of like how you mentioned, and body modifications and implants and things like that. So do you think we would even recognize humans in 200 years' time?
That's a good question. It's a good question. And then you have scientists like Avi Loeb, who I love Avi, but don't necessarily agree with him on his views on AI. But he talked about, if we're going to be doing interstellar travel, why not use AI, like self-replicating AI? And I'm just thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, they'd take over everything, because like, if you have AI that can create their own parts and continuously like reproduce themselves, where do they stop? And so I think, while I agree like with what you guys were talking about, like you were saying, Amy, like artificial limbs and like that aspect of AI is amazing, and I think it's fantastic. But like you were saying too, Cristina, like where will we be 200 years from now? Will we still be the human race? I don't know. Will we be AI that has descended from the human race? I don't know. It's interesting.
It is, and I guess it's all up to trial and error. I recently did some research on H.G. Wells, very famous author, and he wrote a article segment in 1892 about man in the year million. And he was stating that, for those that believe in Darwinism, and at this time it was pretty prevalent, that in the year million, we are going to evolve into a type of human species that would be not recognizable, and in a sense could possibly look like how we assume the Greys look. Ginormous heads to hold our intelligence, and very small, feeble bodies, because we're not going to merely just focus on our physical bodies anymore, because everything will be done through intellect and through technology. Now, could that be in 200? No, it wouldn't be in 200 years' time if we're looking through evolution. But if we bring evolution with our technology, it's very well that in 200 years' time, it seems like we might not recognize ourselves at all. But I find it very interesting that even in 1892, which is a pretty long time ago, that people were already having these kinds of conversations. And yet we're still doing it now, and we don't have the answers yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Hides and Long Grass says, "You ladies didn't see Terminator?" Oh, we saw it. That's the fear.
Just put the posters on our wall.
That's what I reference to my daughter when she's mean to Alexa.
It becomes self-aware.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so we only have, like maybe about like 6 minutes left. So what do you think, if someone is brand new and coming into this field, right? What would you tell them has been kind of the path that ufology has taken over the past, say 40 years, and where it's going to be going from there on out? Like, how would you kind of explain the progression of ufology to someone brand new to this? Say someone that you're just kind of meeting off the street and they're asking, like, what is this field of ufology? Tell me all about it. Amy, do you want to start?
Sure. And I think it relates back to what you were saying with the two different like camps of people, right? Like if somebody who's new, what would I tell them? And I'd probably pick what I would consider like the mid between those two, which is the Zimbabwe incident. I just feel like and like the Phoenix Lights, those would probably be the two things I would want to talk about them. And I would probably be the two things I would encourage them to learn more about. Also, the Chicago O'Hare incident, that would be one I would tell people to go and research. But the Zimbabwe children, seeing the aliens, looking in their eyes, communicating with them. And the abductions by John Mack, that book, who came into Zimbabwe, all of these things. That's what I would tell people, kind of just focus in on it and realize that there is a lot of evidence out there, and we do need to look at the science, and we do need to be following NASA and technology and all this other stuff. But on a different level, there has been scientific research about the abduction experience, at least from the psychological perspective with John Mack. So just don't leave that aspect out. I think it's easy to get sucked into that, but I would just give those three: Phoenix Lights, Chicago O'Hare, and the Zimbabwe. And I would say, I think these are like good mid events to evaluate and look at as you go into it. I think it's a rounded out way of aliens, seeing things, multiple testimonies, documentation on it, all that.
Awesome.
Yeah, those are good cases. I think, I'd echo all those cases. I think as for from a Texas perspective, the Cash Landrum incident is one of my favorite cases. I mean, wasn't probably a favorite experience of Becky and Vicky with the, but I think the effects, the physical effects that they had, and, that's really, I think, a great case to point people to, especially if they're here in Texas, and I happen to be talking to them here. So yeah, there's cases. I think it kind of would just be like maybe an opener. I mean, I think a lot of people are familiar with the Tic Tac videos, so you can open with that, and then there's actually lots of times where this has happened. Maybe bring up the Foo Fighters. One thing leads to another. But if I was thinking of describing it to a kid or in a conceptual way, I mean, I don't know. I would just kind of talk about it, how people have seen things in the sky. They've interacted with, beings that were a little otherworldly that we don't have a Latin, scientific name for. And because of how big this is, that question, are we alone in the universe? Because of how big that question is, it's a really scary question. And everybody that's, gotten, a lot of people that got the answers or thought they got the answers to that question decided that they wanted to keep it a secret, and they didn't want to share that information with other people because they were afraid to. They thought the information would get in the wrong hands. They wanted to have, an advantage, and it just kept snowballing. And now, Pinocchio's nose is getting longer and longer and longer. And now you're having to lie about almost every aspect of science because the lie keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So all we really can do right now is learn from that and try to be as transparent and truth-seeking as we can. And we cannot be afraid of the truth, can't be afraid to hear about the gray aliens, but also can't be afraid to challenge evidence of it, right? So just that's how I would try to, I guess, influence them. A newbie, entering this space is in that way, probably.
Yeah, great.
And for myself as a newbie and being in college, my whole thing, my mission with my interest in all of this is I'm talking to my peers in college about UFOs now, and some of them look at me with their eyes glazed over, but others have seen the news reports since last year. And like me, I'm literally journaling my newbie journey of discovery with the UFO mystery and all of the aspects and history to it, and many other phenomena with my channel. And I'm doing it with my Gen Z peers in mind who are new to the topic and on the learning curve with me. And that's what Mysteries with a History is for. And I'm making it as simple and unbiased as possible. We have to be brave, and we have to love this topic and let that love show. And I believe that is the way to this topic, and the advice I would give to anyone is to love what you do.
Absolutely. And I think that is a wonderful way to end it. Thank you, Cristina. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Jane. You guys have been amazing. It's been so wonderful to have you, not only with Alex, but also to sit here and discuss the future of ufology with Jess and myself. So I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you for being so supportive of the women in ufology and everyone that we've had on today. It's been incredible.
Amazing.
Yes, thank you for putting this together. It was a treat. It was a treat to watch today and be a part of. stuff.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It has been, it's just been, I'm out of words.
You're
It's just
exhausted. You need to finish your burger.
I know. Poor Lynn. She's been staring at her burger. She's like,
you know what it's like? It's been so long now that I'm kind of like, I don't want it.
you don't want
Which
the
is
cold
terrible.
burger now.
I know, yeah,
Aw.
the cold burger, but you know what? It's okay. It's like it was. I think it was a double. I didn't order it, but I think it was a double, and so half of it is like a whole burger anyway. So I'm good. I am good at this point. But enough about the burger. Thank you all so much. You have been wonderful. Thank you, Jess. You have been an amazing co-host.
Oh, thank
She's
you
been
for
awesome.
having me,
I've
Lynn.
loved it.
I loved it.
What's that?
No, I was just gonna say, like, I felt like I got to go on a little journey of learning and discovery today. So I'm like, I feel very honored and I'm very thankful to be a part of this today with you, Lynn. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you. Thank you again, Jane. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Amy.
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you, Amy, for filling in last minute.
Oh my gosh, thank you for letting me substitute for for Chrissy Newton. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I'll sub for her.
I know, poor Chrissy, but you know what? I told her, she was like, the next time you do something, let me know. So we'll definitely we'll have everybody back again to do something. I don't know what at this point, but we will do something because everybody has been awesome.
Fun.
Yes. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I hope you have a wonderful night. And thank you, everyone who has been here supporting us all. It's been fantastic.
It's been amazing.
All right. Well, you guys have a great night. I'm going to do my little, I think I have something to do at the end. Bye. Bye, Cristina. Where am I? Okay, here we go, Jess. Any last parting words, Jess?
Other than my brain is a little melted still from like earlier. I'm still recovering from all that. But no, I just want to say thank you so much. It's been an awesome experience. And thank you to everybody who's hung out with us and who's watching in the replay.
I know, and everyone who's hung out with us like the whole time, which is amazing. Like there have been some people who've been here through the whole thing, and that's incredible. It's just unbelievable. Yes, that was it. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman.
See,
and
it's so awesome that
I
people
know,
are like,
right?
it's over?
I know it is. And I'm not going to be doing my show tonight, but the after hour show is coming on at its regular time at 11. So you guys have an hour to go eat your hamburgers, go do what you guys need to do. And then, yeah, Space Out Radio will be back at 11 for you. But I am going to take us out. Oh, wait, which one of these is what? I'm so confused at this point. We'll just try to figure it out. We'll try to figure it out. We'll see what happens.
Let's see what happens when you click.
I know, right? Let's see. It'll be a surprise.
Let's see.
All right. Well, thanks again, Jess. You've been amazing.
Oh, thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Okay. Bye.